I'm recording.
And we are live. Hello and welcome to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
I'm Nathan.
And in this first season of the Verhoeven Effect podcast, we are watching network television, specifically police procedural network television, which includes 2014's NCIS New Orleans, 2008's The Mentalist, and 1984's Miami Vice. And as always, we start with NCIS New Orleans. We have Season 1, Episode 18, The List. Original air date, March 24th, 2015, CBS Tuesday. After a sailor is murdered in the champagne room of a strip club, the NCIS team links the murder weapon to two additional unsolved cases and discovers that the names of all three victims appear on a mural in a dilapidated part of town. Also, Brody's ex-fiancée pays her a surprise visit. Showrunner Gary Glasberg, written by Laurie Arndt. I think it's like a second one that she wrote. And directed by Michael Zinberg.
Yeah, so this was a pretty run of the mill, but interesting. It had an interesting concept, at least.
Yeah, the back end had it kind of interesting. Although there was a, it felt like too little, too late at the end of it, because it felt like NCIS is gonna solve two problems: the poverty and crime in New Orleans, and gay people coming out. It's like, no, don't do it. You're not gonna solve the problem, NCIS New Orleans.
Yeah, they seem to be reaching out for,
or at least don't do it in the last 5 minutes of your episode. If you want the whole episode to be well, that's fine. But this is a little weird to pull it out at the final moments of the episode.
Yeah, they seem to. This is one of the. They talk about Katrina a lot in this episode, and they kind of how the federal funding mechanisms worked based on the values of what was destroyed. Like if there was big businesses or whatever, they got like a lot of federal money, but just the general poor people, like, yeah, we're not rebuilding your houses. And I've watched that thing on HBO, and it's like, oh yeah, that's actually true. I mean, it sounds like America. Like, yeah, they do that. So,
yeah, because this is like probably the most specifics they get with Katrina in this episode, because it's always kind of like vague.
Yeah, it's like we talk about the atomic bomb that got dropped on the city, but it's always like in the background. And this time it's in the foreground. It's like, yeah, these are the people that were affected.
Yeah, because basically it's like the state government didn't help them. They're left to fend for themselves, and the cops don't patrol their area, and it doesn't help them. Or if they did, they'd probably arrest them for various reasons. And so they're just like, okay, well, we'll just take it upon ourselves to solve these problems. So,
yeah. It was an interesting idea. I liked how it developed, because initially it looked like, oh, this guy got murdered in a strip club, and it turns out like nobody in the Navy liked him, and he didn't really want to be there. And
yeah, he was like a pre-med student or a med student. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because basically anybody can be a pre-med student. But although it seemed like this time when they were looking at the body that Wade might have been sitting on her crime case again, although she did stand up, but I didn't see what. I tried looking at it. It's like, is she sitting on like another chair in there? It's like, no, I think she's sitting on a crime case, because maybe sitting on a chair at the crime scene would be a bad idea.
So. Yeah, might contaminate the crime scene. Yeah, I noticed that too, but I didn't say anything. Now, this episode did capture my heart a little bit. Shameless plug for Ford. Shameless F-150 plugs.
Twice.
I was like, oh, this is a good one. Okay. I probably had something to do with the building of that truck. But yeah, I did like that.
Yeah, I'd probably saved the show. Who knows how much money they get for that? Yeah, so the victim was shot. The victim was Peter Karp, although I recorrected myself several times. Like, I thought it was Karp the first time. Then I thought they were saying Cart. And then I just looked up the credits and it was Karp. I don't know if Karp... It's Karp, so the K, so it's not the fish. So there's no deep meaning to it. It's just a name they grab.
Yeah. When they kept saying the name, I was like, is anyone going to make any kind of connection? But they never did.
And then there's a special footprint at the scene where they can't determine what's going on there, which I thought that was pretty what the reveal to that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, because the one guy was like, a lot of high-end footwear from Europe has flat, like, patternless soles, and it's like, oh, we're looking for a killer with like nice Italian shoes or something. It turns out to be, oh no.
Well, yeah. For a moment there, I thought like this because they once they find out that the gun is involved in other murder cases, I thought like, oh, is this going to involve like some affluent person in the government and they're just like hiding his crimes? It's like a bad Dexter or something. Yeah. And but that's not the case. But that gave you that's a little misdirect unto itself. But
yeah.
Oh, we also introduced like Brody's on the phone with the current guy she's dating. She seems to be happy about it. And then as she leaves the scene, her ex-fiance shows up and then throws everything in turmoil, which is probably the part of the show I care the least about.
Yeah.
But gotta give her something to do every once in a while. Because I feel sometimes Brody's the one they like, we don't got anything for you this week.
Go search for clues while the men do their work. Yeah, sometimes. Not always, but sometimes.
Then that's the thing where, because they're exploring a strip club, like LaSalle supposedly knows an embarrassing amount about a strip club, but really it's just like, I guess if you know anything about a strip club, yeah. I mean, that's what they thought. That's the kind they kind of do is like, shouldn't you be embarrassed by this? Because I mean, that's what the whole Brody thing is. Because like when she starts talking about her ex, when she first starts talking about the guy she's dating, like she just immediately skips over it. It's like, no details.
Yeah.
But they're kind of like, but we don't know anything about you. Yeah, but why Brody and LaSalle are kind of like bickering at each other playfully. Like that's when you have. No, I got my new ride. And you have the F-150 pops up and he hits a button and it starts the car and they're acting like that's the first time this ever existed in cars.
Yeah, they loved. That was really obvious. I think the last show that had something that obvious was like, remember Fringe?
Yeah,
like it was just nothing but product placement in the show. Which was almost. Fringe was so weird. It was almost like, I could see this.
Yeah, what up? The advertising is always weird and out of place, and for a show like Fringe, why not? Yeah, this is weird and out of place. It's right in line with Fringe. I think that's how this is how David Lynch should start selling all his new movies. Just incidental product placement in all of his movies.
Yeah. But it worked. It was fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I remember like with 24, they did a thing because Ford, like sponsored their show, and so I believe like the first episodes for a few seasons were sponsored by Ford, so there was no commercial breaks.
Yeah,
it was just up front. It said sponsored by Ford and like no commercial breaks. And then of course all the good guys had Fords and all the bad guys had like Japanese cars or something.
Yeah. Yeah, like international terrorists driving around on a Toyota Camry or something. It's obvious. 24. There was a show that like, right time, right place. That became like the anthem of our country for years.
Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of cool, but I sort of tapped out of that one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can only go so far with that. It was a cool concept at the time, but it's like 7 seasons? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, they had a nuclear bomb go off in one episode. It was like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, they're just leaping over the shark. Just throwing themselves across, shooting themselves out of a cannon over the shark. Yeah. They always had cool knives in that show. Whoever wrote for that show like loved knives. Like they had the most expensive knives. Because I like knives too, so I sort of recognize it's like, I'll never be able to afford one of those, but it's cool to see like the main character using it.
I think the most blatant advertising ever was the show Viper.
Oh yeah, where it's just built around a car.
Yeah, it's like crime fighting Dodge Viper. The show's called Viper.
Yeah, and it's not like the Knight Rider where you knew it was a modified Trans Am, but they never put that up front. It was always just like, it's Knight Rider. But yeah, no, Viper was weird.
I think there was only one season of Viper, but
yeah,
I remember
didn't go very long.
But you can't forget Viper once you've seen Viper.
Nope.
So they go to interview. They find out one of the strippers at the strip club is also either a teacher or a daycare worker. I don't know.
It was something weird, like weirdly ironic at the time.
Yeah, because
it's normal.
Yeah, because she's like trying to explain things, and she has to be like kind of like coy about it. Also, she was like stripping as like a Native American princess or something.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Everyone, it was theme day, theme night at the strip club.
It's always theme night at the strip club.
I've never been to a strip club that had anything resembling joy or mirth in it.
Nope.
I've only been to, and to be full disclosure here, I've only been to like 2 in my life, and both times I was like, "Ooh, this is vaguely sad." Hey, are you giving tips tonight? It's like, I just spent $8 on this beer. No. That's immediately off-putting to the strippers. It's like, I'm gonna buy the lady a drink at $8. No, she could buy her own drinks. She's got like $100 stuffed in her brassiere. Yeah, I wasn't a big hit at the strip club, but I'm just too practical for that.
Carp was in med school, but for some weird reason the files are missing. That's where I thought it was going to be some weird affluence thing, because they have like the access to get rid of these files, but there's actually no explanation for why the files are missing by the end of the episode.
Oh no, there is an explanation, because the chief of the detective for the New Orleans Police Department says, they cut our budget by 30% every year. Then this stuff ever gets filed.
Oh, okay.
That was the throwaway explanation. Is that an adequate explanation? Yeah. No, but it's like, oh, okay.
Well, yeah, like, while these specific files are missing, I think that's a bit of a reach, but it's an explanation, so it's better than nothing.
Yeah, they didn't just leave it on the table. It's like, well, we're going to come up with a reason. Not a good one.
Now, this is the biggest thing that I don't know what the hell's going on, because it gets revealed later on, but apparently there's 2 bullets and 1 entry wound.
Yeah.
And they try to explain it because it's an old gun, and so I'm thinking like, oh, so like a black powder revolver with 2 bullets put in it. But then the gun reveal at the end is like, Colt 1913 pocket guns or something. And I'm like, that wouldn't put 2 bullets in the same wound. I don't know what the hell this is about.
Well, I think, I don't know. I think maybe that sounds like a last minute script or thing, because as soon as I saw that gun, I was like, oh, the double fire gun, it was just firing out of battery because the sear's worn down, or that's of course too many YouTube gun channels in my head. Like, that's why that would happen, but it wasn't like it was just like, oh, okay, this guy did it, and here's the gun he used. Whatever, it looks like some old gun. Yeah.
That's us again, being the gun detectives.
Yeah, it's like nobody really cares about that deeply.
They said it was a revolver, but it's clearly a Beretta semi or automatic night. What's the automatic Beretta? Is that like the 90? Oh, is it like the 95?
Yeah,
okay.
That was the one the military used. The Brigadier. But this
no, the one that's full auto, the one that has like the little thing on the end. That was actually like,
oh yeah, that's a 92 also, but it's just full auto.
Just modified. Okay.
Yeah. I got Ian. No, he's not here. Okay. He was specific tech breakdowns of what that is and what's different about it.
Yeah, even though we're being the gun detectives here, we also have enough knowledge to know that we're probably wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just suspicious of it. I'm not completely correct about it, but
we've probably done like 500 recorded podcasts in the last decade. They're full of bad information. But that doesn't.
We're trying our best. Yeah.
We're not unique, and we're not influencing millions of people either. So.
And if we had an audience, we'd apologize to them. But we don't, so we don't have to.
Yeah, I would constantly be saying, "Look, I know I'm wrong, but I'm just going to say this because I looked it up on the internet."
And we don't look up things live on the internet unless we know we can cover for the other person.
Yeah. Which we always say, yes, talk amongst yourselves, and you can hear a pin drop. Like, okay. Yeah.
So yeah, they well, oh man, I forget his name. What's his name? What's the nerdy tech guy? Sebastian.
Sebastian, yeah.
So he finds out that he like reconstructs the bolt, and he finds out that the bolt is found in other cases, and this is where they just buzzword. It's like, I think we got a serial killer here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Boom.
Starts blowing up. Here comes NCIS New Orleans reaching to the outer darkness. No, not again, because we always have thought this throughout the series. It's like, well, they're going into the the darkness outside, but it's like, no, it always ends up coming back home.
Yeah.
Because it would be ridiculous if it. I mean, it's not Millennium; it's NCIS New Orleans. It's not.
It always starts in New Orleans, but it ends in like some major metropolitan area in Europe, and like this is where the crime led to.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, so have you ever heard of the show FBI?
Oh, that's a long time ago, wasn't it?
No, it's a recent one. I mean, there might have been old '70s shows called FBI, but there's a new one.
I haven't. I'm thinking of like Robert Loggia's stuff, but okay, no.
No, isn't. So there's a show called, it's on CBS. It's called FBI, and then they have a spin-off show, FBI Most Wanted, and then the third spin-off show called FBI International.
Okay.
So like when we say me and Nathan don't watch network television, here we are, not even knowing 3 shows that exist on CBS.
Yeah, I mean, the facts about me for this show are completely accurate. Completely. I mean, if I didn't have to work, I'd probably be what are those people called that don't leave their house? Not hoarders, but there's a name for that. Yeah,
hermits. No.
Yeah, people that just fear the outside world. I'm rapidly becoming that. But no, I'm not really afraid. I'm annoyed by the outside world. But yeah.
So we have
nothing about what's going on network.
We have Brody meets her ex. Brody sleeps with her ex.
And they weren't married. I'm trying to put myself in the mindset of the normal viewers.
Yeah.
When you know somebody was like, they're not even married.
Well, also she's
a foreigner.
Yeah. Well, and she's dating that like psychiatrist guy, and so like now this is I know sometimes I don't date a lot. Sometimes that seems weird to me, but I know in other places where there's a lot of dating going around, that is perfectly fine to date multiple people and have sex with one and not with the other because you're not committed to each other.
Yeah, I mean, I know people that live that way, and sometimes even after marriage.
So that's one of those things where like it does come off weird to me, like, oh, she's cheating on him. It's like, well, not really.
Yeah,
I have to stop myself and think about it. It's like, no.
Now, if she was my girlfriend and she told me, oh yeah, I was had one last hurrah with that British guy that like screwed my life up and left like when we were planning our marriage to go for a 2-year stint in some foreign country. It's like, oh, were you? Okay, well, why don't you give him a phone call, because I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
so we can get married, and this guy's going to come back every 3 years to get it, like Spock needing to have sex once every 7 years. It's like, I'm not living that way. That's not my relationship. But
yeah, here it's just like she's dating a guy, and then and she gets back with her ex, but I'm pretty sure the grandmas that watch this would be like, oh, Brody, she's a bad one.
That Brody, she's full of secrets, and she doesn't shoot the guy in the chest with the explosives wrapped around him. She's also not good at her job. The karate guy beat her up.
They trace like some of a weird substance from the shoe print to like an underpass.
Yeah, it's a kind of mold that only grows in certain places.
And so,
which
and
is
like
weird because the one guy said, this is New Orleans, it's 100% humidity all the time, mold grows everywhere. Somehow Sebastian vectored it down for him.
Yeah, you gotta move the plot along.
Yeah.
So there's like it's an underpass with a bunch of homeless people under it, and there's like kind of a soup kitchen off to the side with Mama T.
Yep.
And then they find all the names of the victim on the wall, and then they find one new one, which is Kevin
Heller. There's like a
mural
of like graffiti.
Yeah.
And all the names are put in there, and they take high definition pictures of them. They figure out, the handwriting for the names is all different. Like different people wrote these names at different times. It's like, wow, that doesn't sound like the work of one person.
And then Brody and LaSalle track down Kevin Heller. Here we get another F-150 advertisement. There's like, I can't see him. And there's like a light on the side mirror that he turns on. It's like, now we can see him.
And the guy's like, he seems immediately suspicious because he's the last guy on the most recent guy on the list that's not dead.
Yeah.
And he denies being somewhere. And he's like, no, I was just going for a walk or whatever. And it's like, oh, here comes the misdirect, because they always like, yeah, we got him. And it's like, no, this isn't going to be the guy. And he doesn't seem like someone who had raped or killed someone, or like some of the stuff these other guys had did.
Yeah.
He's like, he seems like a normal guy. Like this guy who works on a construction site or something, It's like, and none of the other people had military backgrounds. Just the one sailor that got killed at the strip club.
Yeah. Because that's what got NCIS on it. So, yeah.
I mean, unless they just want to randomly show up at crime scenes and, like they did in the last episode. Like, they could do that too, I guess. Steal evidence.
I did find... I did see that this episode that Pride is carrying his service weapon rather than his big revenge revolver.
The revenge gun. Yeah, he's back to normal.
And then we have like the Pride goes back to talk to Mama T when they kind of suspect that she might be a vigilante killer,
which seems really unlikely. But...
Yeah. And then there's like this Spartacus moment where like everybody in the food line is like, I wrote the name on the wall. I just felt slightly embarrassed for the episode, but it's fine, whatever. They're trying to show how this let down. Poverty stricken
community is like, yeah, we're in this together.
Yeah,
the hell with you and your federal ID and all that. We don't care. We're not going to help you. We're glad he's dead. We hope he's in hell. It's kind of like that shit. It's like, yeah, because the police aren't going to do anything about it, because that's what Mama T said. Is like, I can go to the police, and it's like, well, we didn't find anything. Because this is where her son got beat to death outside that nightclub.
Yeah.
So that was like her motive.
And that's why Keller is being listed as a suspect. Because I forget, like, Keller got let off for some reason. Because like the original guy, the Carp, like the reason he got off his rape charge is because, well, she didn't press the issue, but also, oh no, it was a different guy. There's one guy like hit a kid on a bike. And then like the device that took the blood alcohol content was faulty, and so he got off of that.
Yeah.
And so there's various other reasons where basically like the case got dropped, and that's why these people are taking things that are all in hand. But it turns out Keller didn't kill her son. He was at a different club that was up above, and it turned out to be like some spring up gay nightclub, and like the Keller was didn't want to out himself, so that's why he was like weirdly protective about like what's going on here and secretive about things.
Yeah.
And basically
you immediately like feel bad for the character. Like, this guy's like got someone stalking and killing him who's just trying to have his life, and he has to be secretive because what do you say? His family.
Yeah, his family doesn't know.
His family wouldn't understand it, or something. Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought there was going to be something worse, like this guy was like some kind of pedophile, and that's why he wasn't given any clues. Like, oh, there's something worse in the background. It's like, well, okay, it's not that. So.
No. I figured he was innocent just by the way they had the character portrayed. Is like, seem like a...
Well, he's the last one alive. It's like there wouldn't be a lesson to learn about vigilante justice, nor would it be justified to just have like this guy who's obviously guilty survive at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But he's innocent, so but he also gets to live, so
yeah.
So it turns out the killer is Boogie Down Bob.
Boogie Down Bob. Who's like a guy who looks like a Rasta guy or something.
Yeah. He's one of the homeless people underneath the bridge. And then like that's where you find out like why the shoe print was weird is because this guy has like a pair of shoes that are held together by duct tape. Yeah. So that they don't have a normal tread pattern because his shoes don't have tread pattern anymore.
Can you imagine being homeless in New Orleans? Like I said, it's like 90 degrees there. I think like 306 days a year or something. Like that would be a horrible place to be homeless.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't get cold and freeze to death, but.
But yeah, so they basically arrest him, and that's kind of the end of the episode. So,
well, then the police like make a pitch, like even though they cut our budget every year and our state's basically run it's a Republican hellhole. They don't say that, but you know, Louisiana is. They're going to do better for the community.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, that's great. And then,
yeah, that's the thing you say.
That's
you can say a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, you can be like Jesus and say things, but you know, what can you do without money or jobs? You know, that's what can you do?
I mean, although this is a common refrain that like just like the police department, it's been gutted. There's no more, funding anymore, and then like you find these police departments that they're basically armed like a military. It's like. And who are all these people? Like,
yeah,
just coming out of the woodworks.
We can't patrol the streets anymore, and it's like, oh well, you have an MRAP. That's a $500,000 like assault vehicle that like is resistant to RPGs. Last time I checked, the local gangs aren't using RPGs. That's only in movies that happens. Like, well, also we saw wrong. If somebody gave them RPGs, they would certainly use them, but probably on other gangs. You know.
Also, we saw like last summer with the protest where it's just like, oh, there's like 10,000 police out there, all perfectly like shielded up and armed properly. Well, not necessarily properly, but for what they had, it's like, I thought you had like 12 cops patrolling every city. Where are all these guys coming from?
Yeah. Yeah, these aren't like National Guard guys. Like these people clearly. Yeah, I mean, the law enforcement. There's a federal and a state and local apparatus to that. So,
and there are like reserve police officers, but like, come on, you don't have 9,000 of them.
Well, I'll tell you, I do know this. Every police car you see that like those super fast all-wheel drive Explorers that they all use now. I don't know if you're sure your city has those.
Yeah.
Okay, those are like $80,000 a piece. Like those aren't cheap, and they're not cheap to maintain either. They require constant maintenance because those guys are just balls out in those all the time. Yeah. And they have to be. They're designed as police vehicles, and like you always whenever there's like a vehicle rollover or something, there's always 15 of those around. It's like, well, let's just do the math here. 1, 2, 3.
But the story always here, it's underfunded, not enough police. You not enough. Or you have a patrol going out, it's like one person at a time. It's like, this seems manufactured. If these are your problems and you have no solutions, but suddenly there are solutions.
Well, I think there's two things going on there. I think number one, like a lot of the federal money buys the equipment. I think that's why you have like impressive like police equipment. But I think the state and the local cities and stuff, they're responsible for the hiring, the number of people, the pensions, the health insurance, all that, and they do seem to like that. Yeah, they probably have more.
They're running the police department like you'd run like a business.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they're running it for like efficiency. It's like lean police.
we need a profit.
And at the end of the year, that says, "Hey, we met our budget."
And the more people have in the payroll, the worse it is for our profits. It's like, what are we going to tell the stockholders? Like, we're the police.
Yeah, that's what RoboCop was all about. I mean, that was exactly what the story was.
Yep,
that's just an 80s
RoboCop. Sadly, constantly relevant.
Yeah, 'cause we're almost to that point now. It's like we got drones. Was it Detroit or somebody has drones now, and not like the kind you buy at the store. Like these are like. Oh, these are metal, and they're autonomous unless you summon them, but they just fly around a crime scene and you give them a general pattern, and it's like, yeah, do you know what those cost? But Detroit's not paying for that. The federal government is.
Yeah.
And why are they paying for that? Because they want those out in the field because they want to see how effective they are, so they can.
Is it like those military Predator drones, but they just don't put Hellfire missiles on it?
No, these are the helicopter ones. These are like the quadcopters.
Quadcopter, okay.
but they have like high definition, night vision, FLIR. They're big, heavy. Like two guys carry these damn things. Like they're not like you just throw it up in the air. No, these are big. And the reason they're out there, and the reason the government's giving these out, is they want to do testing on them, so they can figure out how to make it a more effective military weapon. Because you can mount a camera on it, you can mount a gun on it. That's kind of like the progression. But these are like they're there to like take. I mean, it sounds good. It's like well, the officers, if there's a mass crime scene, like there's a shooting or something where we got to cover city blocks, and we have the officers at the scene, we put the drone up with the night vision, so it's like, who's running away, where are they going? It's like, it's all, you could see how it would help policing, but it's like, how about we put 2 more guys in the car and people that live in that community? Like, you don't need a drone when these guys know who everyone is. And it's like, I know that's all pie in the sky, but like, well, this running around shooting people shit's like, no one's putting up with that anymore. So let's try something. Let's try human shit for a while instead of, like Ed 209 crap. It's like that. That just turns everyone against you. But yeah, that's
that's NCS New Orleans.
Totally off of what we're talking about, but yeah.
We're just talking about like policing and stuff like that. And
I was just making American Greed Factory. We're just wandering around.
Well, no, because it's always a trope in television shows that the police departments are underfunded, and like we're seeing things that are counter to that. It's like, oh yeah, they're understaffed. They're somehow understaffed, undertrained, and underfunded. But like look at all this stuff. You have a massive infrastructure that seems to be doing just fine.
Yeah, we can't afford to like process these rape kits, but like you go out in the garage and there's an Abrams tank out there. It's like, wait a minute, that's expensive. That's really expensive. And you got like 5 guys who's the only reason they're employed is to maintain this tank or whatever. It's like, hold on. And they never bring that shit out either. That's like when you see have you ever seen these military or these guys that buy these crazy vehicles and like on YouTube, like I have my own, battle or whatever, like troop transport or something. They're not buying it from the army most of the time. They're buying it like a state police surplus auction because they had this thing sitting in a barn since Reagan was president. And they're like, okay, we can get rid of it now. We're getting a new one that costs 10 times as much. But yeah, and as voters, like you got to pay, because every 2 years, when I go vote, they come up with like, okay, we want to raise your property taxes for like the library, the schools, and the police. And I always vote yes on those. Always, every time. It's like, okay, yeah, because it's going to cost me more, but that's what it costs to live here. I want police here and fire too. I always like the firemen. But, we got the firemen. Remember the Fill the Boot story I told a couple years ago where the guy had the amazing voice, like a singer? Yeah, they're doing fundraising to like buy food for the firehouse. It's like, what country is this? it's like, it's like they shouldn't. Firemen and public service people that have dangerous, crazy jobs like that should never have to just directly appeal to the public for funding.
Yeah.
Like, can you give me something? I mean, like if the firemen want to raise money for like a kid who has cancer or something, yeah, we put some money in there. No, this is just to like so the guys can have chili. It's like, what the hell are we doing in this country? So now we have The Mentalist.
Season 1, episode 18, Russet Potatoes.
Now let me ask about this before we get into the specifics of this. Why is this name scheme different? Is a russet potato red?
So yes, I looked this up. So
okay,
because when I always say a russet potato in the grocery store, it's a brown potato. And then I looked it up, and it's something where it's like a russet potato is like slightly reddish and stuff like that. So russet does have a red connotation to it. Mm-hmm. So
okay.
Although like I said, every time I go into a store, russet potato is brown because red potatoes are a different thing.
Yeah, they're called red potatoes.
Yeah. Yes, but apparently somewhere in the process of a russet potato, it is slightly reddish, or maybe in a different country where it originated from, maybe it is slightly reddish, or the word russet has like some like French connotation or something like that.
Yeah, it kind of threw me because it's like, okay.
Yeah, because every episode so far has red somewhere in the title, so this is like red-ish, or something related to red. So this is like vaguely related to red. So March 31st, 2009, CBS Tuesday. A man drags a woman's corpse to the police station, hypnotized to think it's a sack of potatoes. The team looks for a hypnotist. Showrunner Bruno Heller, written by Ashley Gable, directed by Noberto Barba. So like these hypnotist episodes, I kind of, I almost, I always immediately discredit them, but this was fun despite the nonsense that was going on.
Yeah, this made hypnotism I take with a huge grain of salt.
Yeah.
In every, especially this kind of hypnotism. Now, if you want to talk to me about like, MK Ultra, like government, like super drug hypnotism, where 9 doctors are working on a way to do mind control. Okay, that kind of hypnotism I can maybe get more into, but this kind where it's all suggestive and it's like stare at something and now I have your subconscious. It's like, oh, this is nonsense. This episode made hypnotism an interesting like center point that the episode kind of spun around. Yeah. So you just had to go along with it. You couldn't bring a lot of logic into it because then it breaks the spell. Yeah.
Because like immediately enough, you have a dude reciting stuff to himself while dragging a sack.
Yeah.
You have the CBI unit is like walking in there and they're like Jane showing off his cold reading skills and seeing if anybody else can like try to do the same thing. Because they see a lady in the red dress and like she's having an affair. And it's like that's what Jane always says to any woman.
Yeah.
And then the guy drags a bloody body into CBI. It's Carl Resnick. But apparently the guy thinks he's dragging a bag of potatoes. And he's just bringing it to the cops because, they're hungry.
That CBI headquarters is like the worst place to be. They got bombs going off, dragging corpses into the front door. It's like, this sounds like an awful place. Downtown Sacramento.
Yeah, and apparently, Jane sees that the guy, like his eyes are kind of dilated slightly, and he's like, he's hypnotized. The victim is Mary Beth Hendricks. And then we talk about like some doctor named Royston Daniel because he's running some neuro-linguistic programming.
Of course.
Which I looked it up, and I just looked at a quick Wikipedia article, and they say it's a pseudoscience that somebody created back in the 70s, but now currently, and apparently it's still around, but it's like all the stuff it's based on, all the neuroscience and psychology nowadays, it just misaligned with what it was doing now. So now it's just a pseudoscience. So it's not.
Yeah, it's an old MK Ultra program from the 70s that didn't work.
And then so they go to talk to the doctor. And then I immediately picked up on like they take the doctor to the back, but then his assistant takes over. So I immediately just asked my question: is like, did the associate do it? He did not, but he's like, well, actually, he did do it. But anyways, we'll get to that. It's Tiegler, although I keep writing his name as Keebler because I didn't pick up on what they actually said. And then I just
he's not like the personality of the operation. He's kind of like the straight man, and immediately you're like, oh, it must be the crazy doctor that, he's the guy who inspires everyone.
Yeah. Well, Tiegler seemed like kind of a wirely hinged guy who might be looking for accolades. So it's like, so that's usually the person that kills people. But
the guy who seems like the straight guy, but it's like, maybe not.
Well, I mean, the doctor just seems like a megalomaniac who's like taking everybody for like he's just running.
Man.
Yeah. But like he like pretends to have like science behind it. So, or at the time not completely disproven science. They chased. Tiegler ends up seeing Carl is handcuffed, and then he's just like, oh, I've never seen him before, and they just immediately suspiciously runs away from Lisbon, who then like takes out another pair of handcuffs and like handcuffs his handcuffs to a rail, and then runs off to go tackle the guy. And then they're interviewing him, and then like he basically just confesses to murdering this woman. But then he's like, "Yeah, but I didn't do it. I was hypnotized." Or I can't even remember if he believes that or not. Or if he's just like switching between modes. But yeah, because it's so early in the episode, the fact that Tiegler runs away, and like that's like, well, this is going to be a misdirect.
Yeah.
And then there's a bit where Rigsby is interviewing Carl, and then I thought there was going to be something there because he does like this snap thing and slap thing, and I thought there was going to be some weird thing where Carl did it the whole time, but like he hypnotized 3 people, and then somebody hypnotized him, and then like he's the mastermind. It ends up not being that.
Yeah, I was kind of getting vibes as like, oh, okay.
Because it seemed to like, why would you focus on him doing that hand gesture unless it'll be important later on? And that was a misdirect. So, but yeah, because Tiegler admits to the murder, they basically like, case closed, and you find out that they have celebration pizza after they close a case.
Yeah, which I thought was weird. None of these people look like they eat pizza ever.
I thought Rigsby. I bet Rigsby would eat a pizza a night and then just like spend 4 hours in the gym.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they do eat it, but they would like flagellate themselves like monks in the Middle Ages, at the workout place. What do they call those gyms? Yeah.
Gyms. Yes. Workout place. That works. For as much as we perchance them.
Yeah, as much as I work out.
Let's see here. But yeah, the Jane is suspicious that the case is closed, so we're because we're only like 15 minutes into the episode. It's like, well, this has to go someplace else.
Yeah, and then they roll credits. Like, that's the weirdest episode. Everyone was under a trance, including me.
We have a bit where Van Pelt picks up Dr. Daniel, and then he kind of does like a cold reading on her. But because she's been around Jane enough, she isn't amused, and basically everything he says is probably true, but she just doesn't get like thrown off by it.
Yeah, it's cute that you can do that, but I already work with one cycle. This is enough.
And so they're interviewing the doctor, and shows in there interviewing him, and then Rigsby is like, I think I can crack him, and then Rigsby just goes in there and slams his head on the table.
I actually like that. Like, wow,
yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I immediately knew, oh, Rigsby's hypnotized, because this isn't that kind of show where they just yell at somebody hard enough until he.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, they don't do a lot of like physical. Like, we're just gonna pound your head into the table, and hope your lawyer doesn't see that. So yeah, because like it's now a Manchurian.
But this guy, like they immediately take him out of the room. They're like, "You've just blown the case. Like nothing of this is admissible." And he's like, "Well, what's the problem?" And then they take his gun and badge away. And so like this seems like the most appropriate response to something like this when it never happens in any other cop show.
Yeah, or this one.
Yeah,
where like just Jane like played word salad with him and got the confession, so we're gonna get a warrant. It's like, what? How does that work? Okay.
Yeah. And then just like prove that Rigsby is like hypnotized, he basically gets him to kiss Van Pelt. And the kiss like lingers a little too long. They're like, oh, like I guess they're into each other. But then the Rigsby just like keeps thinking like, I got to get out of here. But they keep like kind of like just like keep delaying him. And then I think Jane goes back to the Dr. Daniels, and like he's like duct taped to a chair. Yeah. And then Lindsay, the sister of the victim, it turns out, who works for the doctor. Or actually, both the sisters work for the doctor. Like, it turns out she orchestrated the whole thing because the doctor didn't love her, but loved her sister. And she apparently thought her sister was fat or something. And it's like, why did anybody love a fat person? I don't whatever.
Yeah, I immediately took offense to that. I was like, what?
Fat phobia.
You should accept yourself. Let's not get into that.
And then there's kind of like a fun but very weird hypnotized standoff.
Oh yeah, the hypnotic standoff at the playground.
Yeah, where everyone's just like popping out of the woodworks with guns. Well, they're on top of a roof.
Oh yeah, okay. I thought you were talking about when he was when Jane was trying to break
Rigsby. Yeah,
Rigsby's hypnosis by trying to find the trigger. Like, where do I touch him or whatever? And
yeah.
Rigsby's like twice. Like, would you quit?
Yeah.
Just
which I was which I was wondering if there's like some weird thing where like he was molested as a child. Like, is this what this is getting at? Because it's gonna get very uncomfortable very quick if that's what this is about. Which it might be. Who knows?
Episode of The Mentalist.
I mean, it's a weird. While Van Pelt and Rigsby are drawn to each other, so these things we're left to figure out for ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have like Lindsay takes him up to the roof. They have the doctor tied to a chair. Lindsay has a gun on Jane, and then Jane says something, and Lisbon pops out of the darkness, and she has the gun on Lindsay. And then the Tiegler comes out of another darkness area and puts the gun on Lisbon, and then Lisbon puts the gun down, and then there is kind of an interesting moment where like they have like Lindsay keeps telling, because Rigsby's still under hypnosis, and she is telling him that like they should go for a swim, and they're just like on top of a roof, and there's nothing but a street below, but they in the audio track they put like the sound of an ocean and it's like, yeah, we should go for a swim. So that was pretty nice, because I was like, I don't think this building's next to a body of water. Like, it's like, oh yeah, of course it isn't. She's tricking him. So very weird but interesting. So I've never seen that before. It's a different kind of standoff, but
yeah.
But yeah, then like Jane is able to figure out like her special like touch pattern that would release Rigsby from his hypnosis, and then he immediately takes the gun away from Lindsay and cuffs her, and then Lisbon takes the gun away from Tiegler and cuffs him, and then they go back to like, oh, now it's finally solved, and they're like in the break room, and Rigsby seems to be fine. He's like, yeah, I don't remember the last 2 days, and they're basically like, you don't remember anything? It's like, no, why? Did I do something? Did I do something foolish? But it's basically the whole thing. It's like, does it ends on this cliffhanger of like, does Rigsby remember that he kissed Van Pelt or not?
Yeah. And does Van Pelt think that hypnotism is witchcraft? Well,
yeah, kind of
The Mentalist. Some cool stuff going on in that show again.
It was a fun, weird episode. But again, like I hope they don't delve more into hypnosis, because I just hate every episode that's like that.
Yeah, it's a suspension of disbelief episode where you got to like hold back on it.
Yeah,
which can be kind of take you out of the moment if you're too rational. But if you just ride it as an entertainment, which is what it's supposed to be, then it's fine.
I mean, yeah, you kind of get like every fourth episode is going to be like the really serious episode where like they really dig deep, and then all the other three are going to be like, here's kind of a more comedic episode, and here's like a less comedic episode, because they all have to like be entertaining, so they all have to be kind of comedic. That's just kind of how these shows work.
Yeah.
I mean, like Mentalist is more meant to be comedic than all the other ones. Like that's why it's always kind of weird when NCIS is being comedic, because it just doesn't come off right. Or here it's always like Jane's doing something that's seems to be in opposition of what like of law sometimes, and it's like and those like kind of mismatches create the comedy, but you can excuse it because like he's just a civilian. So, like the cops are just trying to be cops, and then Jane just like throws a wrench in everything. It throws a spanner in the works.
Yeah, a spanner.
So we have our third show, Miami Vice, Season 1, Episode 18, Made for Each Other. Original air date, March 8th, 1985, NBC Friday. Switek and Zito used two of their favorite informants to set up a transaction with a stolen goods dealer. Showrunner Michael Mann, written by Alan Weisbecker and Dennis Cooper, directed by Rob Cohen. Do you know who Rob Cohen is?
Why does that name sound familiar?
Well, I found out like some of the first movies he directed, or probably his most famous movies he's directed, were like 3Ds in a row. He directed was it something the Dragon, the Brandon Lee story?
Okay.
He directed that, and then after that he directed Dragonheart, and then after that he directed Daylight, the Sylvester Stallone movie.
Oh, okay.
And he's probably most notable for he directed the 2001 Fast and Furious movie, which is the first one in this current series.
Oh, okay.
Not like the 70s Fast and Furious, but like the modern one. He directed the first movie,
2000 or whatever.
Yeah, and then he also directed Triple X with Vin Diesel.
Oh,
and he also directed that Stealth movie. Do you remember that one?
is that the one with?
It's got like
guy who plays
it's like Jamie Foxx, and
the guy who plays Deadpool in that too.
No.
Okay, I'm thinking.
But it's about like they're have these stealth jet fighters, and they have like a completely computer one, and they're like trying to test them out, and then the completely computerized stealth jet like turns evil because of course it was. Yeah. It's basically an entire ripoff of a cool anime called Macross Plus, but
oh, okay.
But it was fine for what it was. It was just a big dumb action movie. Anyways, so that's Rob Cohen. So he has directed not necessarily good movies, but he's like directed movies that like you'll be like, oh yeah, that movie. He's that guy. I mean, like that Fast and Furious franchise is one of the most like successful franchise ever. He started off, he didn't really like reap the rewards, although who knows, he's probably getting checks for those movies.
Oh yeah, he is.
Anyway, so yeah, this is probably the most blatantly intentional comedic episode.
Yeah,
this is obviously it's a comedy episode. So, although
sort of, yeah.
I mean, it's just like there's so many things are played for. It's not like the unintentional comedy episodes of the other stuff we have. Like you constantly refer to them as silly sodes, where it's like basically where like the episode didn't like. It wasn't serious enough, or just kind of stupid things happened. But like this one, it's like, oh, this was written as a comedy.
This is only one of two or three known episodes where Zito and Switek are the main characters.
Yeah.
And it starts off with your typically ridiculous Miami Vice, like we're going after organized crime. This time, a counterfeiter named Artie Cross, who's Crockett and Tubbs are working this guy to buy counterfeit $100 bills, and by the stacks of $100 bills in there, they probably have like $500 million in counterfeit $100 bills, which in the 1980s that would not go unnoticed. And they're so it starts out with Crockett and Tubbs, and he's talking. Crockett saying, "Yeah, this paper's beautiful," and Artie says something about what is it?
Something like spectral analysis or whatever.
Yeah, and Tubbs knows exactly what that is. It's like using lasers to analyze the particle of it's like, and then Crockett's unimpressed by like whatever it starts off that way.
And then Zito's and Switek are like undercover as like old people, but like off in the distance, and then the go word gets sent, and then the cops start raiding the place.
This was kind of a cool scene,
yeah. Tubbs and Crockett are like, oh, we don't know what's going on, but immediately Artie's like, they're cops, and then he like hits a sprinkler system, and it's like, okay. And then he lights it on fire. It's like, oh, that wasn't water in the sprinkler system. That was like gasoline. It was
full of gasoline. Which that much gasoline sprayed in that small a space and throw a lighter into it, they would have been blown. But it's 80s.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
But yeah, it was a cool scene, and like people they're taking cover behind stacks of cash, just shooting shotguns at each other. So yeah, that was it. And then while the place is burning down, and then they kind of get everybody out of there, but then like they're like, all the evidence is getting burned up, and then Zito like jumps in there, and you think he's like dead for a second because like everything collapses, and he just jumps out a side window, and it's like, I got the evidence. But I burnt my hands.
Yeah, his hands were burned up the whole episode. He had bandages on him.
Yeah.
And then they're driving home, and Switek and Zito are driving home, and everyone's like, "Yeah, great job getting the money. You know, that was a big risk, but now we can put this guy away." And then they're driving home, and like Zito's house is burnt to the ground due to a gas explosion. And Switek says it's because he kept one of the $100 bills from the counterfeiter, just as like a souvenir of that mission or whatever. And
Yeah.
And Switek's like, yeah, it's just bad mojo to have that. You know, it's bad luck. And then his mailbox or his house blows up, and the only thing the fire department saves is his gas bill, which was in his mailbox. And then Switek and Zito, or Switek is now dating Zito's ex-girlfriend. What was her name again? Darlene?
Yep, Darlene.
Who just sounds like this annoying girl from like the Bronx or something. Like,
yeah.
This strange lady. And
when they get back to like, because Zito's gonna stay with Switek, but when they get to the house, like basically all of the Switek stuff is like thrown out on like the banister or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like, who's moving in? It's like, nobody's moving in. That's all my stuff. Because like Darlene's moving in with him. So I mean, she's the one moving in, but she decides that all his stuff is not appropriate for their apartment or whatever.
Yeah.
Or is it an apartment or is it a house? I think
it was like a condo or something. I don't know. Okay. I mean, they have weird houses like that in Florida where it's just a bunch of stuff built together.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, that doesn't go well. That's a point of contention because Zito's there. Because apparently there's only one
social skills.
Yeah. And then they go back to the precinct and they put out this name called John C. Castellada, and apparently he's just like some counterfeiter or just moving stolen goods. Like that's his big thing. But he's just kind of like the big bad guy in the background. He's not really that important, but then we cut to Bonzo Barry.
Yeah.
This is the dude from Perfect Strangers who's not Balky.
Yep. I recognized him. I was like, oh yeah. That guy, his name is Mark Lynn Baker. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I recognized him right away. It's like, oh, okay.
I mean, that's the only place I know.
One of those 80s like VCR TV guys where they just had these crazy advertisements and it was all this, IAV equipment, but this guy's selling stolen stuff apparently.
Yeah. That's why he has such good prices on his TVs.
Yeah. And so Zito and Switek are supposed to go and pretend to just do the Vice Cop thing. It's like, yeah, we got some TVs you want to sell you or whatever. But Bonzo Barry's filming one of these crazy commercials, and one of the girls that was in the commercial was a prostitute that Switek and Zito busted, and she fingered him as cops right away. And he's like, "Okay, get out of here. I'm not dealing with a couple of cops."
And I think this is like the first time that a previous perp blows one of their covers.
Yeah, which is like the weirdest thing about Miami Vice is like, especially with Crockett and Tubbs, all these high profile things. It's like no one figures out. Yeah, it's the dude in the white suits with the Ferrari. He's a cop. The guy he's also a cop. They've busted like every major criminal in Miami. But no one. These guys can always pose as like they'll wear a hat or something, and it throws them off. Like, I don't know who these guys are. It's a mystery. But
because it's Zito and Switek, of course it doesn't work out. So.
Well, it's bad luck. It's the bad luck from the money,
Then Noogie is back, and he's marrying a stripper.
Ample Annie. Stripper name.
I like there's a bit where she like grabs the guy's cigarette out of his mouth while the lit end is in her mouth, and she like gives it back to the guy, and then like
smoke out,
and then like Zito's like talented. So that is
talking to Switek. He's like, see, all the good ones are taken. Because Noogie's like driving around or being pushed around on a cart with like a World War II like machine gunners, like those leather. Oh, sorry. Wow.
Yeah.
Like those leather, head wraps with the goggles, and he's like, and it's a typical, Noogie moment.
And then we cut to like some guy awkwardly breaking into a house, and it's Izzy. He's back, and he's stealing birds for some reason.
Yeah, he's the weirdest criminal.
I also at some point I can't remember where it comes up, but like Trudy and Gina give Zito like because he lost his goldfish in the fire, so they give him a new goldfish. But
yeah.
But anyways, yeah, they get Zito because their cover's blown. They basically get Noogie and Izzy to basically like take their place.
Yeah.
And be like the guys that like, yeah, we're selling stolen goods. And then Castillo says like they can't use him to do that, like it's too dangerous. So then they take him off the case, but like they've already made this connection. And like, we already sold like the 1,000 VCRs, but we got a cement truck for you. And he's like,
these guys also are just still criminals, and they're trying to make money.
Well, they said the Castellata guy that they make a point. You see him early on where he's like, this guy's trying to, he wasn't able to unload these CD players that he bought from him, or was supposed to, or he's owed the money for them because like some convention got closed down. And so he's basically like, I know where you live and I know what security's at your house. Like, if you don't give me the money, I'm going to kill you, basically. And then here we have this super suspicious thing where like, hey, these guys were going to sell us VCRs. They don't have any more, but now they want to sell us a cement truck. And he's like, I think something's fishy here. And then the guy's like, holy crap, he has a cement truck.
Yeah, this guy suddenly, Castellato becomes like he wants to relive his childhood. His parents could only afford like the wooden cheap trucks. He always wanted the metal ones.
Yeah.
And he's a big time criminal. He's like, yeah, I want a fire truck and a cement truck. He just wants like the whole Tonka collection in real life. So all logic and reason go out the window.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah, because I thought like, oh, is this guy being sarcastic? It's like, no, it's like that's hilarious.
I don't remember this one. I honestly thought like when he started acting that way, he's like, oh, he's gonna just set those guys up and kill them.
Yeah,
that's gonna be the dark ending of this episode. But no, we have a comedic romp where
because they drop off the truck to John, and then John's in there. He's just bouncing up and down and hitting all the levers inside the cement truck. It's hilarious.
Well, this is stealing the cement truck like they don't know how to drive it. And he dumps the cement in the convertible. One of the construction workers like just fills the car with cement, and it's just like this goofy. They could have had like horns playing, like wee, that kind of weird, slapstick stuff going on.
Yeah, and they knock over a bunch of porta potties and
yeah,
It's this is obviously intentional comedy, so it's. But yeah, then like the one guy Barry like says like, hey, those guys are cops.
Well, that's because Switek and Zito, like they think that Noogie and Izzy are off the case and they're not doing anything anymore, and so they go lean on Barry. They're like, yeah, you're gonna set us up with a meeting with him, cops or not, because otherwise, we got all this stolen stuff in here. We're gonna report you on. And so he immediately, as soon as they leave, he calls Castellata while they're selling him the cement trucks, like, yeah, those guys are cops. And so everyone pulls their guns out, and they're going to go to Castellata's boat and go out to sea. And you know what that means? It's like, well, some of them aren't coming back.
They got a scene where, I also have a scene where like they go back to Switek's house, and he basically is like breaks up with Darlene because it's like, it's either me or the job, and he's like, sorry, lady, it's the job.
He hands her a picture of like
Princess Diane. Yeah. And he kind of salutes her and walks out.
Yeah, this Princess Diane with her youngest child is now the symbol of the end of our relationship. Like, okay. But I think that was just kind of a thing. Like that was something she hung on the wall because she was just a tacky, annoying person.
Yeah.
I mean, even though they had like embarrassing sex scenes with her and Switek, it was like, yeah, he's in love with her, but he's also like, I got to save these two guys that they're going to get killed, and she's like, it's either them or me. It's like, well, here's Princess Diana. So,
and so they go chase down to the boat, and like they run and jump out of it, and then just like two guys pop up out of nowhere, and they shoot them immediately. They fall off, and you see the interior.
It's a
where
weird
like
shootout though. because they're on the back of the boat facing forward. The guys come up from the top and they're shooting crisscross at the guys.
Yeah.
Like they're shooting across each other's lane of fire. And it's like, that I wonder if they didn't coordinate that right, or maybe they just meant to do that because these guys are.
Or maybe it just looked funnier, you know.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of these guys, some of these side characters in Miami Vice. There's a lot of gun shooting like this.
Yeah.
Where, it's like they're shooting blanks, so they're just simulating like this report and recoil that a 9mm does not have. So yeah, there was goofball stuff in this.
But like you saw the interior before, and it's like, oh, they're gonna shoot Izzy and Noogie, like for sure, and the other guy, he's just thrown in with it. It's like, you got me in this, and then when they pop in there, like a basically tied up Noogie and Izzy have somehow turned the tables, and they have the gun on Castellana somehow, and it's like,
Noogie and Izzy are criminals, so it's like, maybe they could have.
And Izzy's giving a speech about something about like,
you got your leaders, you got your Reagan and your somebody else.
Lee Iacocca, is that the one?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was Miami Vice.
Yeah, this is kind of like what I mean, it's not really what I would classify as one of my typical like silly sods, because those usually involve Crockett and Tubbs with a bunch of harebrained stuff going on. Where this was more written like that way.
Yeah, this is intentional comedy.
It was fine. It was fun. It kind of takes a break from all the darkness,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's
why
what
Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas got to film another episode while this was going on.
Well, I mean, it's like, that's why it starts off as like just a regular ass Miami Vice episode. It was a bunch of gunfire, exciting, the things are on fire and stuff, and then like it just turns into this comedy episode. So that was the baton handoff, is when Zito goes to get the cash. Like, that's the handoff. It's like, now it's a Switek and Zito episode. So
yeah, I think there's only like 3 more of these, and one of them's, I think the last one's very sad because. Not to spoil or anything, but the Switek and Zito pair, like one of them doesn't survive the Miami Vice arc.
And because of something weird, I probably know who.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know, there is a recent Miami Vice thing with the original cast called Miami Vice, like miniseries or something like that. Or miniseries returns, and it's not an actual official Miami Vice thing. It's like this guy or somebody basically came up with ideas for episodes and shot trailers of the proposed episodes.
Okay,
and it has the original cast in it. It's just basically no speaking lines, because it's like more like a music video that's a trailer for the episode that they didn't shoot. But it has Don Johnson and I'm forgetting who plays Castillo. Edward James Olmos, and all the original cast is in it, and then the guy who plays Switek is like in a quick episode where he gets shot in the throat. So the guys are all in their 60s and 70s, and it's on YouTube. There's like trailers for it, but it exists out there. I forget, it's called like Miami Vice Reunion or something like that. But it's not an official thing, but it makes you think like it's going to be.
Yeah, it looks good. Most of the music in this show was Elvis. They didn't have a lot of the cool techno music, really.
No,
a little bit, but not much.
Yeah, because I thought I wrote down what it starts with, but what's the song in the beginning?
Let me look up.
It's like a rockabilly song or something like that. Why did I forget what it was?
It's Money. That's What I Want.
Oh yeah, That's What I Want. Yeah.
And that's the opening scene with Crockett and Tubbs. But after that, it's Elvis.
Yeah.
Elvis, and then.
Well, because like that's Switek's thing is he's a big Elvis fan.
Yeah.
Because his big Elvis cutout got thrown out on the stairs because Darlene didn't want it in there. And of course, that's the only thing they bring back. And there's that argument that like Switek and Zito are having, and then he just looks at the television, like, "Oh, Elvis is on," and they're enraptured by like some old recording of Elvis on TV.
Yeah, because Switek was like getting ready to have sex, and then he goes out, and then Zito's got the TV up way too loud, and he just sits down. Oh, cool, Elvis, turn it up. It's like, wow, okay, that's really an Elvis fan at that point. So yeah, this was a a rare episode of Miami Vice, where it's kind of there are other episodes coming up in other seasons where it's almost like Sonny and Crockett or Sonny and Tubbs or
Crockett and Tubbs.
Crockett and Tubbs, yeah, okay. Crockett and Tubbs are like side characters to other characters doing stuff, but that's kind of those weird, like, we're going to tell it from the story of the guest character or something. Like, they do things like that.
Well, there's something I'm wondering, and this could just be like a they entered a number wrong, but if you look at like who's in what episodes, it's like Zito and Switek are technically in all the episodes plus one, but everybody else is in just the amount of episodes.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I think that might be a mistake, but
yeah, probably is.
Because it's like I can't remember how many episodes it made. Well, it's 5 seasons, so it made about 100 episodes. So it's like Zito and Switek are listed at like 101 episodes, and everybody else is like 100. Like Tubbs and Crockett are like 100 episodes, but that's probably just a misprint or something. So
yeah,
or there could have been a whole episode that didn't involve Tubbs and Crockett, but did involve Zito and Switek. So
yeah, as I remember, there's 3 of these, and I think the last one's kind of sad. I believe that's the one, but yeah, this.
But I figured like if you had a Zito and Switek episode, you would reverse it, and just Tubbs and Crockett would be in the background. But if they didn't even involve Tubbs and Crockett in the background, that'd be interesting. But I kind of doubt that.
Yeah, they had a lot of popular characters and good writing enough on this show where they didn't have to have or they maybe like fishing a spinoff that never was. Or, there's always you never know in the 80s what they were thinking. A lot of cocaine driving these productions.
Yeah. There wasn't any spinoffs of Miami Vice, was there?
No.
Okay.
Too expensive.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
A very expensive show.
Well, I mean, I don't know. But yeah, it was around the time he had a bunch of spin-offs. But I'm like, what? Like, when did All in the Family? That was like a 70s show, right?
Yeah.
Was that like late 70s or just?
I think that was late 70s into the 80s.
Okay, yeah.
Because like that show, like the culture sort of changed around it.
Yeah. We got like All in the Family, and then like, what is it? Sanford and Son, technically a spin-off of that. And then you have the Jeffersons and a bunch of them for like all spin-offs.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in the Family was 71 to 79. It never made it into the 80s.
Huh, okay. Yeah, because I know of it, but I think I only saw it because they had it on like Nick at Night or something. But
yeah, there were 2 spin-offs of All in the Family. Maude, which was based on Edith's cousin, B. Arthur, and then Good Times.
Oh, and the Jeffersons as well.
Yeah, the Jeffersons also. These are just the ones in order because a lot of these didn't last more than a season.
And then there's
Jeffersons was actually, I think they had more episodes than Jeffersons than they did.
And then there was like it's like Archie's Place. I think it was 1 season. That was another spin.
Yeah, that was when he had the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was it had for 4 seasons, but it was just him like giving. It was the great performance of him delivering his dialogue just in a bar. Carol O'Connor. Yeah.
But yeah, like this era of TV was not adverse to spin-offs. So
no. Yeah, so when you have strange episodes, it's always like, well, were they fishing? You always wonder, like, were they fishing?
It's like we're building a pilot within our show, so it's definitely budgeted. Anyways, if you like what you heard, and how couldn't you? You can find us at anchor.fn/Verhoeven Effect. The way I like to spell Verhoeven is Verho, Verho, and then even at the end. You can rate our podcast on your podcast platform of choice. you can rate us whatever you want, but really, if you give us 5 stars or whatever, that's the thing. That's the only thing that the algorithm listens to. So remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. And if I asked for you to write something, just wrote, I listened to this podcast at work. So you don't have to think of it. I already give you a line.
Yeah.
And then we get like, 2 of them, and they're like, oh, a computer must have written this. We're using a Malaysian Twitter mill to give us
$500,000 on a bot farm.
Also at anchor.fm/Verhoeven Effect, we have listener support there where you can support this podcast at 3 tiers of 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. It's a monthly stipend. And if you support us, we'll just do more faster. So you can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect, on Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. We also have another podcast called American Greed Factory. We have American Greed Factory on YouTube. I think you can just search American Greed Factory and it'll probably give you episodes of American Greed, the MSNBC show, but
which was also very good.
You can put in parentheses American Greed Factory and you'll find ours. I think technically I have a side channel by accident but they're both like, I don't know. You look for us. Anyways, we're in episode 450 something by now.
Or yeah, something like that.
I had it somewhere, but anyways, you can find unedited videos on there of American Greed Factory and Verhoeven Effect. We produce them live, so you can see them if you want to see them live.
We use naughty words on the live one. Try not to, but sometimes we do.
I'm gonna have to go through it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I edit out all the ums and stuff, so it seems quicker. We seem smarter.
Yeah. Guys are so fast on their feet, so nimble. That one has a mouth like a truck driver.
I think there's like 2 episodes in a row I didn't swear. I was kind of proud of myself, and then I just said then I said motherfucker. Now I have to remember to edit this part because I almost never. When I get to this end part, I almost never critically go over it for like swearing. It's like, we never swear in the end. I'm just reading off this thing. It's like, now I have to edit it.
Yeah, I do it. So as soon as I do it, I realize, I shouldn't have said that. But
it's not really that much editing because I'm gonna have to go through it anyways. So, we have T-shirts at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. We have 2 different kinds. It's the American Greed Factory logo, a negative and a positive. So like a white shirt with a black logo, and then I have a black shirt with a white logo. And then I'm still working on the American Greed Factory or the Verhoeven Effect podcast T-shirt because I have an idea, but ideas are cheap. It's gonna be something. Do you remember that old VHS logo? It would be on the side and it says VHS, and it was kind of had that kind of like Venetian blinds like cut out of the VHS.
Now that one I'd have to look at, but yeah, it sounds familiar.
So I'm gonna try to do something like it's like that, and then I'm gonna add something. It's like I don't know how to call it effect, but it's like color separation. It's like they do it a lot in video games now, where it's like your character gets hit, and then it's like the red, greens, and blues start to separate from the image.
Oh, okay.
I want to do something like that, but I am not that talented with Adobe Illustrator, and I'm not even sure if it can do it. But because for the logos, I work on Adobe Illustrator because they use what is it? Like linear graphics or something. It basically raster graphics. There's raster graphics, and there's this other one. It's like linear graphics, where raster graphics, the farther you zoom in on it, the more it just becomes a bunch of squares. Whereas with linear graphics, the more it basically redraws the image, so no matter what size you make it, it looks exactly the same. Which makes it more tricky when you work with it because you don't have all the tools you would have like in Photoshop. To work with it, so it's more simplified, but it is for graphic design work. It's better on your back end. Anyways, that's what I'm working on. You can also find me at twitch.tv/Greed Factory. Right now in the morning, I play puzzle games called Puzzles and Podcasts, where I listen to podcasts that I'm listening to and I play puzzle games. It's the kind of low effort content that everybody can get behind. Unless you don't like wrestling, because I end up listening to a lot of wrestling podcasts while playing it. So, anyways. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Colin.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.